Hello and welcome to a look at Midnight Resistance for the Commodore 64, a Data East arcade original that was converted by special effects and released by Ocean. The plot behind this game is that your family members has been kidnapped by some bad guys and you have to go out and get them back. The conversion's plotline was made a bit more dramatic, but the deal is the same. Go and rescue your family members. You are in control of this commando-like soldier guy who has to navigate several different levels, defeating bad guys in the process, and various different types of machinery, ranging from tanks to missile tanks and other specialty stuff you can shoot at. You start out with a normal repeater that you can obviously use to shoot bad guys with. But some of the bad guys you kill will drop keys. And those keys are used to get upgrades because instead of getting credits or finding power-ups or something, you actually pick up keys, and then at the end of a level you will unlock display cases using the keys, and the different display cases require a certain amount of keys to unlock, and that is how you get your power-ups. You have various different types of power-ups. You have certain weapon power-ups. You have full auto, you have shotgun, you have 3-way, and you have the flamer. And then you have backpack weapons, as they are called, support weapons in the form of homing missiles and that kind of stuff. You can also buy a power-up for whatever weapon you have chosen, but it comes with a massive caveat that if you lose a life, you lose that power-up, whereas if you lose a life normally, you will drop your weapon and your keys, and you can pick them up immediately after. As you go along and shoot stuff, you have to navigate the different levels in multiple directions and have to crawl and run and jump and shoot while you navigate set levels. You know what, let's just go to the technical side of things, because the gameplay should be somewhat obvious and likely doesn't need an awful lot of explaining to be understood. From a graphical point of view, I think this game looks very, very well for a Commodore 64 arcade conversion. You can sort of tell that it was the same guys that did Cabal for the Commodore 64. I'm not saying that the graphics are identical, but there's a certain similarity in tone and how it's been drawn and that kind of things. And obviously it's not going to measure up to the arcade original, but it is sufficiently accurate graphically that I'm perfectly happy with how it looks. Certain things looks perhaps a bit out of place, but by and large I can't really complain much about the graphics. The sound side of things, let's start with the music, because the music is by and large excellent. The title tune, the high score tune, the in-level tunes, certain mid-tune loops are perhaps overused a bit, and if you're not a fan of the Commodore 64's drum sound, the music is going to drive you nuts because it's very heavily used. But for anyone who's a fan of the SID chip's sound, you get a lot of good stuff from this game, and I would give the music very, very high marks. despite its sometimes very short mid-tune loops, which are repeated extensively, I would say. And then we come to the sound effects, and that is where even it goes a bit wonky. I'm not going to say that special effects has reused sound assets or whatever, even though there is a distinct similarity between certain sound effects and the sound effects and Cabal. But while the gun sounds are perfectly fine, the sound of an enemy dying sounds like a wet fart. It's the only sound I can connect it to. It sounds unsatisfying, inappropriate, and wrong. It is definitely a game that if you want to play it, you likely would choose to have the music playing, because the sound effects are nothing special. The general sound effects are perfectly fine, but I just can't ignore the fact that shooting at enemies sounds like, what I mentioned before. The control side of things, left, right, and up and down will do left, right, and up and down things as you expect. Thankfully, in that regard, I should say the controls are very, very responsive. But something that made the arcade version interesting was the fact that you could move your man in one direction and aim in another. And the way the different angles of aiming is dealt with in this particular version is that while you hold down the fire button, you can angle your aim, which is fine and dandy, but sometimes, because the controls are super responsive, if you let go of the fire button and immediately after having angled the gun, and the game registers, oh, you want to jump now, and you can find yourself jumping over ladders quite unintentionally because you are just being too quick. The controls work by and large, but it is definitely something to be very mindful of when you change the direction of your aim. You want to use the fire button at the same time extensively, because you can risk that you start jumping and that kind of stuff. Use the spacebar to activate special weapons or extras, whatever, and there's nothing special to be said about that. It works perfectly fine. So let us talk oddities, because there is a few quirks. I've mentioned the sound ones, but the arcade game is considered to be quite large, and the whole arcade's levels has been converted in this version, and it sounds perhaps a bit odd, but there was quite a few conversions where one or two levels were cut out here and there. But something to be incredibly mindful of is that anything that's on screen is safe, anything that's off screen is not. The screen that you see is the area that's active. If you use a special weapon, for instance, and the missiles are being fired off screen, they do not come back, they stop existing there and then, which means, of course, that you have to sometimes put yourself in a very awkward position in order to get them to actually be registered by the game that you're trying to fire them off. That also means that if you're jumping down platforms and the screen hasn't scrolled fully, you hit a dead plane and you lose life instantly. And if you are unlucky, it's likely unlucky, your keys and special weapons will also hit the death plane, and then you have lost your keys and special weapon with no chance of recovering them again, which is quite unfortunate. As per usual, I look up comments and that kind of stuff about games I cover, and there's been quite a few comments saying that this is the best arcade conversion ever made for the Commodore 64. It's not bad, but I personally think that Cabal takes that title by a country mile when it comes to arcade conversions. I like the gameplay flow and the gameplay in general of Cabal more than I like this, but claiming this is a bad conversion would be unfair. It is likely as good as you could have it be on the Commodore 64, and it is entirely playable and enjoyable to play. Certain people have called it tough. I've played 5 games for the purpose of this video, and I was progressing steadily every single time, so yeah. Anyways, on that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.